We've got some breaking news out of college football where the latest AP poll has been released. It's the final AP poll before the College Football Playoff Selection Committee releases its initial rankings on Tuesday night, and the top 7 spots remain unchanged. Ohio State still leading the pack, receiving 54 of a possible 66 votes. The biggest faller this week, though, you're going to see on a future page, number 23, Tennessee, who drops 9 spots from 14. But you're taking a look at the top 10 right now. Notre Dame back in business. Texas Tech up 4 spots to number 9. BYU up to number 2. So that is a brand new top 10, but this is the top 25. So a few more down the line here, and Oklahoma moving up 7 spots after a big win at Neyland Stadium over the Tennessee Volunteers. Texas moving up 7 spots after they beat Vanderbilt at home. Another 7-spot mover for Utah, a big night win over Cincinnati. And Vanderbilt falling, Georgia Tech falling, Miami falling 8 spots after taking a loss on the road at SMU. So let's take a look at the final 5 spots in the AP Top 25 poll. I mentioned Tennessee down those 9 spots. Still ranked, though, at number 23. Memphis moving up as they keep winning in the American Conference to number 22. Cincinnati still remains ranked after taking a loss, but down 8 spots, barely in at number 25. Let's welcome in our friends Brad Crawford and Brandon Marcello to talk through this brand new AP Top 25 poll. Guys, we saw some top 10 teams lose, so we knew that there would be some carnage, some shifting around. And I want to start things off, though, with Miami, right? They're now down to number 18, taking a second conference loss. So, Brandon, if you're looking at this from a college football playoff perspective, what did that loss do to their resume?
Yeah, they've got to win the ACC championship game. If they don't do that, they're not getting in, even as a 2-loss team at this point because of the strength of schedule, strength of record, moving down the line here. And I don't have much confidence that's going to happen because, as we've seen under Mario Cristobal, they're a great September and October team, and then when November hits, they look anything but. They've got a terrible, terrible winning percentage, and they've got some pretty difficult games if you literally look at the schedule here down the stretch. NC State, of course, upsetting Georgia Tech earlier this week. They've got them coming up in a couple of weeks. Virginia Tech, yes, interim coach, but they're playing pretty hard. And then Pitt with an amazing freshman quarterback, and that's on the road. So I don't think Miami might even get out of this schedule unscathed with just 2 losses. I think they might end up having 3 when all is said and done. But again, even getting the ACC championship game is going to be difficult.
Yeah, it feels like to me the ACC is going to be a one-bid playoff league. That's not something I thought we'd be saying here in early November a couple of weeks ago, because Miami at one point was 5-0, ranked number 2 in the country. A lot of us, including myself, thought the Hurricanes looked like the nation's best team. They have flatlined since. 2 of 3 losses have come these last several weeks, and that is bad news, Emily, ahead of Tuesday night's first college football playoff rankings. I am anxious to see what this committee does with Miami's early season schedule. Are we going to still see this Canes team placed inside the top 15 because of those 3 top 25 wins? Or have what we've seen lately going to dock Miami and, like Brandon said, probably take them out of a playoff spot? So I think right now Georgia Tech's the obvious ACC favorite despite losing in Raleigh last night to NC State. And like I said, I think the ACC is a one-bid playoff league.
Yeah, you mentioned that loss Georgia Tech taking, so there's still a lot of question marks as to who will even be playing in the ACC championship game. But as you both mentioned, looking to be like a win and in for whoever takes the title in that conference. In the SEC, though, seems like there's going to be a few more bids for them, particularly as we talk about the Texas Longhorns taking a second top 10 win. Yes, that is absolutely true. We've also talked about a potential of them getting in as a 3-loss team, but it doesn't seem like that's a problem coming off of this win. So, Brad, how good do their chances look to make it to the CFP?
They look pretty good because they hold that, virtual tiebreaker against Oklahoma after winning Red River there in September. The key for me is I think Texas and OU likely lose one more time the rest of the way. Both finish 9-3. And then you're talking about the Longhorns and Sooners battling for maybe that 11 seed as the last team in behind the G5 champion. Texas has to split these remaining games against Georgia and Texas A&M. If they do that, then they're going to have a 3rd top 25 win, but more importantly, they're going to have a top 5 win, and they're going to do it late in the season when the committee meets here the next few weeks. So Texas in very good spot right now. I don't think a lot of us thought that would happen the way Arch Manning and this offense kind of sputtered a bit to start the season. But here we are playing down the stretch, and Texas is one of maybe 9 or 10 teams nationally who still control their own destiny.
I want to be fascinated to see what the playoff committee ranks them in the very first rankings, because you saw in the AP they jumped 7 spots. Who would have thought that beating Vanderbilt would be a big boon to your rankings? But that's the life we live these days in college football. And as Brad mentioned, the schedule is conducive for them to pick up. If they just pick up one more win against a top 10, top 5 opponent, which is still remaining there with 2 remaining on the schedule, I think we're going to see our first 3-loss team in the college football playoff, and that team will be Texas. The SEC, because of the strength of the conference, you're going to see it Tuesday night. When they release those CFP rankings, there are going to be a lot of SEC teams in that top 16, and Texas is really going to benefit that from here on out if they can just pull off one win against those top 5 opponents coming up. And if they do that, I think they will get in the playoffs, a 3-loss team, because of the SEC strength, and also, as we mentioned earlier, the ACC looking like a one big league right now, and the Big 12 looking as such right now as well.
Speaking of the SEC, we all dubbed Oklahoma versus Tennessee a college football playoff elimination game, so we can eliminate the Vols. But the road does not get any easier for the Sooners down the stretch. Brandon, what do you think of their chances?
Yeah, the offense came back to life last night, and I was happy to see that for the Sooners, because that was one of my big gripes here ever since Red River. When they lost to Texas, John Mateer, we started wondering, did they force him back into action too quickly from having surgery on that hand? Well, they get the offense rolling a little bit more better. They're at Tennessee, which is a good sign, though Tennessee's defense hasn't been great all year. So I'm going to hold out some expectations even further until they play Alabama. They have to go the road on Alabama's turf. As we've seen, Alabama's just been absolutely invincible at home this season. They play so much better there. They're clicking on all cylinders ever since that week 1 loss. But if Oklahoma can go in there and beat them, this Oklahoma team is going to be in the driver's seat to get into the college football playoff. And it'll be not because of their defense, but if they beat Bama, it'll be because that offense has truly come back to life. I think the defense will hold its own. It's going to be up to the offense, like it was against Tennessee, to carry this team toward the postseason.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that Oklahoma has to win out. You got to win 10 games to be a virtual lock from the SEC to get one of those at-large spots. Even if Oklahoma wins out, they're not going to Atlanta to play in the SEC championship game. However, the resume is going to be sexy enough to that committee to get in the playoff. Still, the fly in the ointment is that 23-6 loss to Texas. If for any reason Oklahoma and Texas are essentially viewed on the same level by the committee when it's all said and done with the same record, Texas is getting that nod over OU because it won head-to-head on the field. So if I'm Brent Venables, I am pounding the locker room chalkboard this week, letting my team know we have to win 10 games and leave nothing up to interpretation with that committee.
Yeah,
that's why earlier in the year I was being argumentative about playing John Mateer in Red River. Even if he was quote-unquote ready, they should have sat him out. And if they lost that game, it would have been looked at differently by the committee. Because they go, you weren't full strength, your quarterback wasn't out there. I think that could end up hurting them because they would have had a lot more people in their corner if John Mateer didn't play.
Yeah, and committees past have told us essentially that it does matter who you have in games and who you maybe don't have in games. Looking at you, Florida State. Let's move on to the Big 12, because if you guys are looking at the ACC is now a one-bid league, that could potentially open up some doors for the Big 12. We have a top 10 showdown, number 8 versus number 9 next week between BYU and Texas Tech. Brandon, what's at stake when those two teams meet?
Yeah, this is going to be phenomenal. I keep waiting for BYU to stub its toe, and they just haven't done it. They've been grinding out these wins, and this is setting up to a spot where if BYU loses this game, I hate to say this, they're undefeated right now, but if they lose this game against Texas Tech, I think the pollsters, especially in the AP, are going to punish them severely. They've been looking for any reason to drop them all season. They've been slowly creeping up the rankings, maybe not getting the respect they deserve because of all these close wins and fourth quarter comebacks. But if they get beat by Texas Tech this week, that's going to be a situation where I think BYU is going to tumble quite a bit in these rankings. And do they deserve that? I don't know, but it's going to hurt the Big 12's case to potentially get two teams in to the CFP.
Yeah, the Big 12's case for two teams in is leaking oil badly, especially after Houston and Cincinnati got blown out Saturday. We talk about this upcoming BYU at Texas Tech game. I think the winner of that game not only wins the Big 12 down the road this month, but also makes the CFP. I don't see the Big 12 getting 2 teams in, and I agree with Brandon's assertion that if BYU loses this game, you're going to see probably a half a dozen, 7 or 8 spot drop in the polls when the committee meets. Sort of like what we were going to see when Georgia Tech lost to NC State. We've been looking for weeks to see, is Georgia Tech for real? Is it a legitimate team? They've beaten some close team, games in the ACC, and then to give up 600 yards at NC State, man, that was kind of the elephant in the room for Brent Key. So I'm with the BYU assertion. If they do lose in Lubbock this weekend, BYU's out of the mix.
Yeah, and they will continue to play a tough schedule. They also have to face Cincinnati at some point. And speaking of, though, that win that BYU got over Utah is looking even better after Utah winning last night against Cincinnati. Guys, we're always keeping an eye on what's happening for that G5 bid, and we have been circling the American Conference basically all season long. Odds makers now seeing that as a 3-horse race with South Florida, North Texas, and Memphis, because Tulane ended up taking a loss earlier last week. So what do things look like now as far as the playoff is concerned, Brad?
Yeah, so much for my preseason pick of Navy to win the American and get to the playoff. This was one of the 6 unbeaten teams heading into Week 10, got blown out by North Texas, and still has some crazy difficult games left against Notre Dame and Memphis and others. I think this is Memphis' league to win or lose here. USF obviously has the multiple ranked wins over top 25 teams. We're going to see Tuesday night, Emily, where the committee puts the Bulls and Alice Golesh's team. But Memphis winning that game head-to-head a couple weeks ago after losing the previous week to UAB, that showed me that Ryan Silverfield's team, still has some confidence inside that locker room. And you see there, they're 8-1 right now. All they need to do is beat Tulane, ECU, and Navy from here on out, and then win the American in their end. So Memphis is a team, too, by the way, that I don't think the 5 seed in the playoff is going to be looking forward to playing in mid-December.
Yeah, you look at them right now, and you mentioned 2 of their toughest games against top 4 opponents in the AAC they're coming to Memphis, and Memphis just wins games there. They've got an incredible winning streak going on there, and they're going to be favored in every game here on out. And when they get to the American Championship, that's going to be big for them as far as tiebreakers because of just home field advantage for them. Memphis, by far, has the clearest path here to win the American and get that highest-ranked group of 6 playoff spot.
Yeah, the American has been so much fun to watch this season. And like you said, Brad, whoever ends up, maybe that 5 seed facing the G5 opponent will not have a favorable matchup because all of them look pretty darn good. Brad, Brandon, thank you so much for breaking down the AP Top 25 poll. A reminder again of what the top 10 looks like. No change in the top 7. All of those teams staying safe. A few of them on bye weeks, which certainly helps. But we've collision course for BYU and Texas Tech to be a massive matchup this Saturday as BYU moves up to number 8, Texas Tech at 9, up 4 spots, and Notre Dame, welcome back to the top 10, up 2 spots from their ranking last week.